What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto attack on Konoha and Tsunade Runaway? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. 6-year-old Naruto Uzumaki climbed a tree as a last-ditch effort to hide from the group of deadly villagers. He watched them go by and jumped down, then headed north deciding that staying away from the village for a few days would be best. Time for them to cool off a bit, then he could sneak back and sleep in his own bed. At least the gate guards liked him. He walked on a path before going east for a few minutes, then finally found the cliff he was looking for. He walked down it. After a few hours he saw the entrance and decided to take a break. He sat down and leaned over the edge a bit to watch the huge river 60 feet below him crashing through the small chasm it had created over many millions of years. There was a jerk beneath him. He paled, scrambling away from the edge as quickly as possible. But the rock that fell didn't stop by the edge. It moved inward about 5 feet, putting Naruto in the, as I'm calling it, drop zone. He kept moving and found his hands half off the other edge of the narrow path of rock exactly 5 feet from the edge. Crap! Was his last thought before the rock beneath him finally slipped off of its foundation, taking him with it. He fell, not even remembering hitting the water after passing out, but he'd still feel it when he woke up. Tsunade and Shizune walked along a path. Tsunade had gotten an awful losing streak, and now they were fleeing at Shizune's suggestion. It was either flee, or Tsunade would make a show of her strength, and that usually ended badly for the challengers. They finally decided to stay off the map for a day or two, hopefully have their followers pass them so they could continue on to the next town. It just seemed too obvious if they went to the next town immediately. Shizune, would you go and get some water? Tsunade asked after finally having snapped the tent in half because it just wasn't working with her. Yay, I'll be back in a few minutes. Shizune answered. Shizune walked through the forest. She knew there was a stream around here. She walked out of the trees only to freeze when she saw a kid with sunny blonde hair and orange clothes. He was breathing but soaked and red all the way down his front. She immediately threw down the canteens and used a jutsu to check him over. Naruto woke up, and the first thing he noticed was that he hurt a lot. Ouch, he muttered, trying to sit up, but it was not to be as a woman with black hair pushed him down. He sighed, staying down. He knew that he wouldn't succeed at the moment. Are you in any pain? A bit, all over really? The woman nodded. A few seconds later she gave him some kind of medicine to drink. He tried, he really did, but it tasted absolutely awful, so he instead threw it up after swallowing. He was given more, and willed himself to keep it down. There, that should start to work in a few minutes. So, what's your name? Naruto Uzumaki. What's your name? I'm Shizune. How's that brat doing? A blonde woman asked, opening the tent, which Shizune is way too good at repairing, by the way. Who are you? I'm Tsunade Senju. That sounds familiar. I know I've heard it somewhere before. I don't know. Your name sounds familiar from somewhere. Maybe I heard it in my sleep during one of Iruka-sensei's lectures. Shizune face palmed, while Tsunade was wondering why the name Iruka sounded familiar. Iruka? I've heard that name, I know. I helped deliver him when he was born. So then you must be from Konoha. Yay, well at least we know where to point you. You aren't gonna, take me yourself? No, I'm never going back to that village again. I know who you are now. You're Tsunade of the Sannin. The one that left the village vowing never to go back to it ever again. That's right, brat. Why did you leave? And why should I tell you? She yelled, temper rising rapidly. You don't have to yell, I was just curious. Do I really have to go back? Yes, because I know at least one person would have a fit if you didn't. But what about your parents? They would probably have fits too. I don't have any. There are only 4 people I can think of that would be even relatively worried: the old man, Iruka-sensei, Shikamaru, and Choji. Tsunade's expression softened just a little bit. Hey, she might be kinda mean and grouchy, but she isn't heartless. Look, I can't believe I'm actually saying this, but I'll send the Hokage a letter, and see if he'll let us keep you. Really, I won't have to go back? No, if I can persuade him. Only if you can persuade the old man. If you can, I would really like it. Tsunade left the tent with a piece of paper and a pen, sighing. She didn't know why she offered to keep the kid. There was just something about his personality, and he somehow was able to just wheedle her into liking him. She didn't know how, only that it happened. Hiruzen sat back in his chair. Naruto knew where to go on days like today. They had set up that cave about a year ago so that any time he needed to leave the village and hide out for a bit he could. He had permission to use the cave anytime he needed. He was relaxed doing his ever-growing pile of paperwork, until an Anbu came into the room. "Lord Hokage, I have some bad news." "What's happened?" "I went on my usual round to check on Naruto Uzumaki, but he wasn't at home, in the cave, and what I found on the trail to the cave was worrying." "What's wrong with the trail?" "It seems as though a part of it, broke away." "What are you implying?" "Well, I think that it's possible Naruto was on that piece of the trail when it fell, and has been thrown into the river below." Hiruzen nodded, slowly absorbing the information being given to him. "Did you check downstream?" "Yes. I went about 10 miles downstream. I found no banks where he would be able to pull himself out, assuming he was even conscious on any level at all." "I see," was all Hiruzen said. He sat back thinking. There was a knock at the door and his secretary entered. "Lord Hokage, this raven summoned just came with a message," she said, leaving the raven on his desk. "Thank you." She nodded and left again. Hiruzen sighed, grabbing the scroll from the awaiting bird. "Thank you, they always load me down with heavy things like money and scrolls. It's tiring after a while." "Who are they?" "Well, I'm sure you'll find out. They sent you that letter." "Good point." Hiruzen agreed. He gave the Anbu still in front of him a wave of his hand and the Anbu was gone. "Sensei, I found a kid named Naruto. Apparently he's from the village. Well, he's practically begged me to let him stick with me and Shizune, but I knew you would have a total fit if one of your villagers were to go missing. I'll still train him, probably in the arts of a medical nin, and I can always give him the test to get out of the academy. Shizune will bring him for whenever the Chunin exams are and see if he can raise his rank. He would also be able to do missions in the areas we are in at different times. We would be traveling a lot. Of course, most of these plans are if he can stay with us, and for the future depending on when I deem him fit to try it. Your student that will never come home. Tsunade." Hiruzen smirked at the end part. Of course she would declare that point again without really declaring it. He sighed, thinking about Tsunade's ideas. They all seemed like they would work. And proximity was something the village didn't have for most of Fire Country. And maybe if Naruto earned enough, then he wouldn't have to keep paying people who came looking for Tsunade in the village. But then again, the village elders would be screaming at him about how they did not want Naruto out of the village. Heck, they didn't want him out of a jail cell. But he had managed to persuade them from that, luckily. He pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. And started his letter back. He finally decided he didn't give a crap what the elders thought. Naruto deserved more than what he was getting in the village. So if getting him out was the only way of fixing it, then that's what he would do. Tsunade sat eating her dinner in front of the fire when Hitari Shizune's summon raven landed beside her. She took the scroll and opened it. Shizune, who had also been eating, was beside her in an instant. And Naruto probably would have been listening, but he had been sleeping all day and was still out cold. "Tsunade, I'm fine with you keeping Naruto. But there are some things you need to know. At the bottom of this scroll is a seal. I set so it'll release when you channel healing chakra into it. Everything in that scroll is S-class secrets. Please note it's your choice as to when you tell the boy, but I ask that you wait until he's 16 to tell him about his parents. They were very well targeted, and I'm worried he'll be targeted for the things they did. Also, one more thing before you read that scroll, because of the things on it he's been hated by nearly the entire village. Only Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, Uruka Amino, and myself will probably even notice he's gone. They will be told he's safe, but not with whom or where. Good luck, and keep a good eye on the child. He's well targeted already. Your very old sensei. Hiruzen Sarutobi." Tsunade opened the scroll all the way and found the seal that Hiruzen had been talking about. She used her healing jutsu to open it and was amazed to find an entire backpack full of stuff about the kid. She grabbed the first thing and opened it up. She instantly recognized it as Kushina Uzumaki's diary. She had seen it once. October 7th. I'm ready to go anytime now. I've been moved to a more secret location where Minato can keep the seal while I give birth. I can't wait to hold my child in my arms, and the fact that Minato will be a part of this instead of being held up in his office makes it all the better. Okay, so he would never miss the birth of our child, but still until 3 days ago I hadn't seen him for almost a week. Tsunade snapped the large book closed and grabbed something else. Alas, it was the letter from Hiruzen. I've sent you the diary of his mother. I think he'll want it when he's older. Also, there are a few pictures of them hidden in that backpack, a scroll with a family tree, as well as reports on every time he's ever been attacked by the villagers for what I'm about to tell you. You see, the day he was born was the day the Kyuubi attacked? 10 minutes later, well, Minato, after managing to seal it, died because of what seal he had used. And Kushina died of her wounds and exhaustion. I was forced to make a decision. Either find someone to take him, or put him in an orphanage. I tried the orphanage, but somehow the information that the Kyuubi had been sealed into him had been leaked out, and spread quicker than I could walk. Well, eventually I managed to convince them, but I learned to check once a day. I know how much they would have loved to try and get rid of him in any way. They saw him as the demon, not as the container of the demon, and he's been mistreated. I've done my best to protect him, but I can't take solid sides without losing any possibility of protecting him. I've had my most trustworthy Anbu watching him for the last several years, and he set up a cave for him to hide in when the villagers needed a little time to cool off. That's where he was headed when he fell into the river. The house was set up like a miniaturized house. It had 2 rooms and most of his possessions. The reason I'm telling you this is because it would probably be good for you to get his more sentimental things, like pictures. Things he would like to keep. There are multiple other things that I can say. But I think this letter is long enough at 10 pages. Good luck, and I hope to talk with you, and check up on him once in a while. You're now crying, sensei. Here is in Sarutobi. 10 pages. Long letter. Tsunade said. Wow. The old man took time enough to write 10 pages? He must be crying by now. Naruto said groggily, slowly moving towards the log the 2 women were sitting on. He said at the end he was. You know why? Have you? Wait, no. You haven't seen his office lately. Well, most of the time there are 3 to 5 stacks of paperwork that reach from the floor to the ceiling. Heck, I rearranged them and made a little room to hide in once. He even uses it sometimes to hide from the angry secretary. Tsunade burst out laughing, while Shizune looked disapproving at the image that had formed in her mind. The next day the enormous amount of adoption paperwork was sent by multiple summons. By the time they had it all and it was sent back, well, the summons were pissed at their summoners and intended to eat every last bit of food they possibly could before going back to the summon world. Hiruzen sat in his office sighing in relief. He was feeling so lucky that he didn't have to read through and sign all that paperwork, and well, he was caught up. Finally, after almost a year, he could take a few hours home and not be thinking about how much the stacks would grow. He might even be able to take a day off. Until the secretary entered with a stack of paperwork so tall she couldn't see over it, and it had a twin. Oh, and a third came in with a chunin. Well, there went that idea. Hiruzen, though bitterly. Sir, the last genin team to catch Tora. Well, just tell me that thing was killed already. Well, not exactly. You see, the last genin team to catch it. Well, they attempted to kill it with exploding tags and lightning jutsu. But they failed, and now Madame Shijimi has filed a report and is trying to sue the village. Oh, and the mission report is in here, and 3 other teams got back. Oh, and it just went on and on as the 3 stacks were dropped on his desk. The very first thing Tsunade and Shizune did was tell Naruto they were taking him clothes shopping. To his absolute terror, he spent a total of 4 hours hiding in the tent, muttering about how they were going to turn him into a doll by dressing, undressing and redressing him over and over again. Shizune assured him they would only find a few outfits for him to wear, while Tsunade went to his cave to grab everything he requested. His pictures and sleeping bag, which unknown to Shizune and Tsunade held more of the kill me orange clothes they so despised. I'm back, Tsunade said. Hello, Shizune said cheerfully, while Naruto stood there, a dingy aura around him as he kept being depressed about the up-and-coming clothes shopping they were going to subject him to. Oh, by the way, Naruto, I found the kill me orange that was in the sleeping bag. It's probably about 30 miles downstream right now. BBU, but oh, don't have a fit. I kept this, she said, holding up one of the kill me orange vests. But you have to be good and cooperate during our little shopping excursion. Deal, he squealed, taking his vest and putting it on. Good, let's go then. After almost 6 hours of shopping, 15 stores, and almost 30 arguments, each of the 3 had chosen an outfit. Naruto had of course chosen orange, though he had been convinced to get something with black on it. He was especially convinced when he saw how well the 2 colors contrasted. Finally, by the end of the day when they sat down in a restaurant for dinner, Naruto had 3 outfits. The first one Shizune had chosen, it had azure blue pants that passed his knees by a couple inches, a sapphire blue top with sleeves that only reached his elbows, and darker blue ninja sandals. The second one Tsunade had chosen was a white short-sleeved shirt and pants ending mid-calf accented by gray patterns, along with black ninja sandals. And the last one chosen by Naruto, and also what he was wearing at the moment, was a black shirt and pants with orange stripes running up the sides and doing the trim. The black sandals from Tsunade's choice also worked for this outfit. All in all, they were satisfied with what everyone else had chosen, as they ate dinner. Though Naruto missed his swirl, Tsunade's eye was twitching after almost half an hour. "Naruto, where does it all go?" Tsunade asked in anguish as he finished cleaned his 10th plate of food. "There's a reason the old man had a meal with me once and decided not to ever again. I burned through his cash like it was candy. Where does it all go?" Tsunade muttered, whined, while Shizune was beginning to look faint as she saw the bill climb higher and higher. Finally she hit the breaking point and fainted from shock and nerves somewhere around broke. "Wow, that was awesome. I haven't eaten that much in almost a month. I ask you for the 10th time, where do you store it?" "I dunno. I just get really hungry all the time, and I have to fill myself up. Thanks, that was great." "Yay. I'm glad you're happy, but we're going to be even more broke than usual for the next 3 weeks." Shizune squeaked, still feeling lightheaded. The next day at 6 a.m. "Alright Naruto, we're going to start training today." Tsunade barked into the tent they all shared. "Can I sleep for a few more minutes?" No. Sleeping too much is bad. Bu, but I'm still tired," and he stopped as icy water was poured on him. "Get up, now," Tsunade yelled, still holding the bucket of water. Alright, I'm up," he finally said. "Good, now while you're getting dressed I'm going to go set up." "Kill me now," Naruto muttered, dragging himself into a sitting position. Finally, after another thread of the bucket visiting him, he got dressed, choosing Tsunade's choice. Mostly for flattery, and he didn't mind them too much either. Not to mention his orange and black was dirty after the night before. "Alright, so we're going to start with a bit of chakra control and see where that is. Then we'll do physical strength, then the written exams stuff." "Did you say written exams and chakra control?" "Yay. You have any problems with that?" "Yay, all of it." "What do you mean all of it?" "All of it. I can't do a clone, and the last time I took a written test, I got one question right." Tsunade's head hung low, half the thoughts of making the child a medical nin vanishing in that one sentence. "Show me your clone please," she said. "Clone," he said, sounding a bit scared as there was a poof beside him and a glob of goop appeared beside him. "Ew. Well, I can say one thing right now. You have a lot of chakra to put goop out. You're putting in far too much, for now. Let's work on tree walking," she said, demonstrating the technique. "You see, you have to put enough chakra to stick to the tree. If you put too little you fall off, and if you put too much you get blown off the tree. The thing is that once you master this, and a few other exercises, I should be able to build your control from there, then begin to teach you jutsu that take perfect control." "Perfect control? You really think I can get to that point?" he asked excitedly, with lots of time, sweat and tears. "Yay. I mean, it'll take a while, you'll probably be about 10 to 12 before it actually hits that point. But with enough work you'll get there. Work is my middle name. I'm gonna get there, I will, and then I'll become Hokage, and prove that I'm not a waste of space." Believe it, this struck a chord of fear for Tsunade, because the last 2 people that she cared about, that had that dream, both were dead. But she decided to leave him be for now. "Naruto, before you start there, I've got another thing we're going to be doing at the same time, now." She held up a 6-inch stack of flashcards. "We're going to go through 3 of these every time you fall. And every time you get one wrong, it will be replaced by another question. Get 5 in a row wrong and you have to start all over again. And neither of us can stop until you get through either the tree walking or the flashcards. Now go," she barked. 5 hours later, Tsunade was impressed. Though Naruto was bad at the questions to begin, he was a really fast learner and had already burned through a third of the stack. She put 3 more to the side as Naruto started carefully walking back up the tree. He was doing all right, getting about 5 steps now before losing his control and hitting the ground. Luckily she had been nice enough to turn the ground to soft sand so he didn't get hurt when he fell. She pulled out a card that he didn't know. Lucky for him they were multiple choice so he could reason his guess. 3/4 of the time he guessed right. 9 hours later, Tsunade and Naruto were miserable by this point. They were starving after not eating all day, and the smell of Shizune's home-cooked dinner. It was torture. I'm hungry too. I can almost smell said food. It's torturing me too. Tsunade, Naruto asked sweetly. Naruto, Tsunade said in the same voice. Can we have dinner, please? Not yet. You only have 40 flashcard to go. Or you have to make it another 10 feet up the tree, and back without falling. But I can't focus on an empty stomach. Besides Shizune is already sleeping. He whined. Wait just a few more minutes, okay? Fine. 2 hours later. Dinner. He screamed, stampeding to the pot that was set over the fire. He promptly devoured 10 bowls of soup and went on to cook marshmallows. Finally, after almost 15 marshmallows and an hour to eat, he accidentally fell asleep against Tsunade, who merely sighed in annoyance when she realized it. Eventually Naruto shifted, falling off the log and still somehow staying asleep. Tsunade picked him up and put him in bed, then went to bed herself. 6 months later, Tsunade was standing on one side of a field, Shizune on the other, 20 ninja in front of them, and Naruto tied to a tree unconscious. Give back my son, Tsunade snarled. And if we refuse? The leader of the ninja asked. We'll attack, Shizune answered dangerously. And I'm supposed to be scared of a couple of little ladies? Little huh? Give him back now or else. Nope, sorry. We're being paid. We hand this kid over and we'll earn ourselves a pretty penny. Shizune. I take right. You take left, and we have to be careful of Naru. Ready, set, go. They both barked, rushing forward. In a matter of minutes they had taken down almost all of the shinobi. The only problem was that Tsunade had lost her cool when blood had spattered in front of her. And there was currently a blade at each Naruto's throat, heart and stomach. Stand down, or the kid dies. Naruto. Shizune cried in anguish as she was finally pinned. You were to lose from the beginning because of sheer numbers. The leader said, accidentally pressing just a bit too hard on his blade, cutting into the captive boy's neck. Tsunade stared in absolute horror, unable to move, while Shizune was pinned in every possible place to keep her from getting up. Tsunade's face slowly morphed from horror to fierce motherly anger. The men around her looked really uncomfortable as she shakily stood back up, letting loose so much killing intent they were about to drop their weapons and leave right now. Let him go, now, she said in a deathly calm, demanding voice. One of the smart subordinates spoke up. I think we should listen. My wife. When she has that same look in her eye. She'll kill to protect. And this is Tsunade of the Sanin. He said, smart man. Yes. Listen, or else face the consequences. Tsunade said, smirking an unearthly grin promising destruction. I can kill him if I get any resis, retreat. He yelled, withdrawing his blade and running away like any coward would. While Shizune was looking over the area to make sure they were all gone, Tsunade raced to her son. She cut the thick ropes and started to heal his neck. After a few minutes Shizune came back after making a perimeter and started looking Naruto over for any injuries other than the cut on his neck. There were some sedatives in his system. He was cut up pretty badly, a few bruises, and several other things which she got to fixing right away. 1 hour later, Shizune watched as Tsunade carefully cradled the boy of which she had come to think of as a brother in her arms. Let's go. Someone obviously wants to get their hands on Naruto. And it seems as though they were going to meet here. We should go before whoever it is comes. Shizune, I want you to go back to camp, get everything, then follow me and cover any tracks. I don't want us to be followed. Tsunade said, getting ready to take off through the trees. Right, Shizune agreed. So where are we headed? I'm not going to say just in case someone's listening. We've gotta go, she said. They took off through the trees, Shizune grabbing everything from camp within minutes and then following behind Tsunade, using a jutsu to cover every type of track they could leave. They kept moving for almost 3 hours until Tsunade stopped, the younger woman almost bumping into her. Suna? But we shouldn't. Sure, there's a treaty, but it's dangerous. But the thing is, I don't plan on going to Suna. We'll wait until sundown, then start off through the desert. We'll send clones in the direction of Suna while the wind erases our trail as we head another way. Then we'll just circle around back to Fire Country in a day or two. There's an oasis out here that we can stay at for a bit. Then I would like to head into Lightning Country for just a little while. No one will see us, of course. That's a very devious plan. Exactly. Well, let's nap. We're going to be up all night getting sand in our sandals. The woman said, already laying out a sleeping bag. Shizune followed suit, getting another for her, and one for Tsunade to put Naruto in. Naruto woke up, his vision blurring as everything hurt. His fingers even hurt. He also noticed that he was between two people, then started feeling slightly uncomfortable when he realized Tsunade and Shizune were both hugging him, mostly making his sides hurt. He tried to sit up, roll over, move a leg, anything. But he couldn't move an inch. It was like he was paralyzed. Meh, probably the sedative, but I really need to go to the bathroom. Hey guys, he tried to say, but it came out as more of a whisper, and hurt some sort of bruise on his throat. It seemed as though the only thing he could do right now was talk, and look around, and the talking wasn't going well. Wake up, please. They didn't move, and the strange thing to him was that it was only about 3 in the afternoon. So instead of killing his throat any further, he decided to try and figure out how he got to this point in the first place. Well, let's see. Flashback. Naruto was jerked awake as someone grabbed him. Seconds later there was wind pounding against his face and he had to close his eyes so they didn't get dry. But if there was one thing he knew with his eyes closed, it was that this wasn't his mom or Shizune. He started to scream for them, but a hand clamped over his mouth a second later. He just hoped they had gotten the message. After that thought he started to struggle, biting, kicking, punching, screaming, anything to get away. He felt them stop and got a little bit of hope, but that was crushed as he felt something injected into his arm. Then they kept going. Today was not turning out how he had planned. He kept up his efforts, but the arm around him started to crush him just to keep a good grip. He kept trying but movement wasn't happening anymore and he was sure why. Finally he realized they had done something and now he didn't have the energy to struggle anymore and that if he wasn't careful he would pass out. He stopped trying for the time being, his eyes starting to fill with water as tears leaked out, running down his face in an uncontrollable torrent. He was scared. Finally he had 2 people that were always around, that cared and took care of him, wanted to take care of him. And now he might be taken away from them. He sobbed silently for almost 10 minutes before he lost to sleep. End flashback. Tsunade sat up, a movement that woke up Naruto and Shizune. The 2 women beamed at Naruto as he smiled a bit, still not really able to move. I have to go to the bathroom, he said offhandedly. Okay then go ahead, Tsunade said, but I can't move. Well, this will be awkward, Shizune finished. Yay, Tsunade answered, but even so she picked him up and went into the tree line. A few minutes later she came back with him on her back, already asleep again. Whatever they used on him must be doing this. This is the first time I've ever seen him this tired. Even at 5 in the morning after no sleep. I know, it kind of worries me, Shizune said as they started walking through the sand. Me too. I think we should keep a close eye on him and make sure nothing changes, Tsunade suggested. That'll work, and if nothing else we can always try and find some medicine in at the oasis, or if push comes to shove Suna. Yay, if we have 2. Shizune created 3 clones, 2 of which hanged into Naruto and Tsunade, then sent them towards Suna. Then the 3 began moving again. They walked through the night and into the morning hours. Naruto woke up around dawn when he was being transferred to Shizune's back since Tsunade was getting tired from travel and having 30 pounds on her back, though she had been working on making him less skinny by feeding him lots. Naruto, finally able to move a slight amount, managed to maneuver himself off of Shizune's back before he threw up. Naruto, are you alright? What's wrong? Tsunade asked, getting down beside him. I don't feel very good, he said, shaking as though he had a flu. We can tell that, but does your stomach hurt or something? Shizune asked. A little. Why am I shaking? I can stop shaking. It's okay. It's just because you threw up. Think of it like the side effect of a medicine. Tsunade. Do you think maybe whatever they gave him had something he's allergic to? Shizune asked. Maybe. And the worst part is that for some reason it's not flushing out of his system. It should be gone by now. I'm really worried. Wait, I know. Shizune, summon Hitari and I'll send Sensei a blood sample, and he can have his medical nin test it. I'll try and find anything related to medicines he's allergic to in the files, while we ask Sensei about that too. Alright, Shizune agreed, summoning her favorite raven. Hitari appeared in front of her and she looked down grimly as Tsunade scribbled on a piece of paper. After 2 minutes the blonde woman was done and they gave the note to Hitari, and the raven flew away. I hate to say it, but I think we need to camp here. Traveling anymore will just strain Naruto further. Tsunade said. I agree with you. Besides, it's too warm to travel anymore. Let's just pitch the tent here and unzip both windows so we get a cool breeze to get rid of the hot air. The breeze won't be cool, and it'll be more like a torrent of air, but it'll have to do. It's better than getting us all sunburned. 1 hour later, we should sleep for a while we wait for Hitari to come back. Shizune said, already climbing into the considerably cooler tent. She had put up the rain cover so the sun made the area above the tent warm, but not the actual tent, and then they had wind blowing through pushing out the hot air. So overall it was about 80 degrees. Well, I guess. Too bad we didn't find anything about allergens. But anyways, you're right, we should sleep. We might have to get to the oasis by tomorrow morning, she said, crawling into the tent as well, dragging the backpack with her, and sealing it back in its scroll. Shizune decided to take off her heavy black robes, exposing a white shirt and gray knee-length skirt, a side of her she usually hid. But at this point she really didn't care, and then there was Tsunade. She had long since lost the coat. They nearly collapsed onto their sleeping bags and were asleep instantly. Meanwhile, Hiruzen opened the window for Hitari as she knocked. Hitari flew in and dropped the paper. Hiruzen opened it and started reading. Someone kidnapped Naruto, we got him back but they gave him some kind of anesthetic, and it isn't wearing off even after almost 24 hours. He can't hardly move and is throwing up. Me and Shizune think that whatever they gave him might have had a medicine he's allergic to. We're going to look through those medical files you sent, but just in case I want anything he's even slightly allergic to. Also, I sent a blood sample, I want you to test it for anything that might cause this. Medicine, allergens, anything. I know you're still at that desk of yours, so go. Hiruzen jumped up, almost hearing Tsunade yelling it in his ear. Hitari followed him with the blood sample as he went to the hospital and personally gave them the sample. He even waited there a few hours, visiting Jiraiya, who happened to have gotten mobbed by women a few minutes ago. In fact, it worked out perfectly since he still needed to tell him about Naruto's adoption. Hello Jiraiya, why do you have that tone of voice? I can't fool you, can I? Well, since you've been gone. Naruto's been adopted. Would you like to know by whom? Of course I want to know. He's my godson. Take a guess. Hiruzen said, trying to be as annoying as possible. You. No. Kakashi. Wrong again. You have one more guess. Iruka? Nope. You and I both know her. Orochimaru knew her too, in fact. No way. It can't be. You don't mean Enko, do you? Hiruzen nearly fell out of his chair. No. Tsunade. Dang it. Tsunade adopted him. Tsunade? My gosh, how the heck did that happen? I'll explain in a few minutes. I need to go get a couple things, and then check on something, then I'll be back. Alright. Meanwhile, Tsunade sat up, stretching after her nap. She looked outside. Looks like it'll be dark soon. She went over to Shizune and woke her up, then checked on Naruto. What she saw made her worry even more. There was vomit beside him on his sleeping bag, and considering it was fresh and he was still sleeping, she assumed it was from when he was still asleep. Shizune, do you happen to have some medicine to help with the vomiting? He's been doing it in his sleep too. I can make it, but I don't have any ready now. And I don't have the ingredients to make it right now either. And the oasis probably doesn't have what you need. What if I went to Suna and got what I needed, then met you at the oasis? Shizune suggested. I guess that'll have to work. Alright, I'll help get you two off. And I'll take most of our stuff since you're already going to have Naruto. Okay. 10 minutes later, Tsunade walked and walked and walked through the desert, until finally she saw light. Finally, there it is, she said, picking up the pace a bit. She got there and found the nearest hotel. Then got set up. She put Naruto on one bed and took the other. Shizune had a room to herself since there were no 3 bedrooms. Naruto, Tsunade said, shaking him a bit. It had been a long while since he had drank or eaten, so some crackers and a bit of water would probably do him more good than bad. She shook him again, saying his name a bit louder. He opened his eyes for a moment before rolling over and going back to sleep. Naruto, wake up already, you need eat something. I'm not hungry. Not hungry? Well, that's a first. Well, I would like you to at least drink something. I don't wanna. But you have to. It's not good to be sick and not drink or eat anything. Especially not in the middle of a desert. Desert? He asked as everything in front of him doubled up. Yes, desert, we've only been going through it for the last 2 days. Oh. He closed his eyes and went back to sleep, too tired to stay awake. Tsunade sighed. Alright, fine. I'll just have to recruit some help, the young lady out there offered. She said, leaving the room. Meanwhile, Jiraiya smiled as his sensei entered the room again after about 15 minutes. Well, I managed to get everything done. Good, now entertain me. I want to know how you got Tsunade to adopt Naruto. Then once my everything heals, I'm gonna go and hunt them down for a visit. Maybe some good food since Shizune can make something really good. Well, you see, a few years ago I had a cave set up a few miles away from the village in case Naruto needed to use it. Well, about 6 months ago part of the trail fell into the river, and Naruto happened to go with it. Well, Shizune found him and they talked, and according to Tsunade from her letter, he practically begged to be able to stay with them. I honestly see why. Well, we did all the paperwork. He's officially Tsunade's son, and since they're never here, no one can object to it. You're sneaky sometimes, sensei. Then the rest of the time you're crying or sleeping. Hirazen's eye twitched. But about those brats, the Nara, and the Akamichi? And didn't the teacher care too? They know he's safe. Just not where or with whom. Well, at least he's safe. About that, Tsunade blasted him to Suna and he gone missing. Jiraiya guessed. Hirazen's eye twitched madly. No, he got kidnapped. He what? Jiraiya yelled. A nurse came in. Lord Hokage, you're going to have to leave your stressing, Master Jiraiya. I understand, I just need a few more moments, otherwise he's going to rush out the window. Alright, now Jiraiya calmed down. Tsunade and Shizune got him back. But whoever tried to kidnap him gave him something and he's not doing very well from it. I just sent Tsunade what she needs and he should be fine. Several of his medicinal allergies were in it. He should be fine though. Are you sure? Yes. 'Cause you aren't the best when it comes to medical stuff. I mean the last time you tried medical ninjutsu. I have to go now, he said, poofing away before Jiraiya reminded him what happened to Asuma's pet rabbit. Meanwhile, after threatening to force him to drink, he agreed to have a cup, drinking it and plopping back to sleep a few seconds later. Thanks, I thought that threatening him would work, Tsunade said as she stood in the hall. You're welcome, she said, then left. Tsunade went back in only to come face to face with Hitari. Hitari, did sensei send us what we need? Yay, here's his written reply, she said, dropping the paper. Thanks, I think you can go now. Hitari poofed away. You were right, there were some things he was allergic to. I guess I should have sent you a list right away, huh? Tsunade merely scanned the list, until she realized that almost every medicine in existence was there. The list only excluded anything completely herbal. 2 types of pain reliever, a fever reducer, and antibiotics. Plus there were some foods and drinks on the list, strawberries, most tea, cocoa bean, and tomatoes. Gosh. No wonder he loves ramen so much and is so picky about everything he eats and drinks. Having that many allergies is just insane. It could possibly be, though, that the stuff doesn't agree with the furball. The door opened and Shizune walked in. What's that list? All of the brat's allergies, look at it. It has to be the longest list ever made, Tsunade said, turning it so Shizune could look. That is a very long list. Anyways, I got the ingredients, and a few extra just in case. Well, don't use anything in here. I have 3 things that aren't there. Well, we'll just have to work with herbs. I only have a few herbs. Well, I saw some at the market, go look at those. And we'll have to just use them to make something. And we should hurry it up 'cause he's been throwing up almost everything. And he's too tired to really do anything but sleep. I'll hurry. I'll only need 10 minutes in the market, then about half an hour to actually make something. Good, we'll wait it out for now. Great, I'll be back in a while once I have something to try. Shizune walked down the street. It was about 5 in the morning and everyone was open before the heat of the day hit and they had to close because no one was out. She entered the first shop. It sold flowers, herbs, and other plants you could grow in the desert. She browsed the herbs, grabbing 3 of everything after thoroughly inspecting each one for anything. Then she went to the counter and paid for them. After she had her herbs, she went back to the hotel and retreated to her room to make something that would help. Half an hour later, finally, I'm done, Shizune said joyfully. She went into Naruto and Tsunade's room and found Tsunade asleep with Naruto beside her. Tsunade. The woman jumped up. What? I have it. I tested some on a sick bird and it managed to keep some food down. Great, the 43-year-old woman said. Sorry, had to mention her age right now for future reference. Shizune went over and shook the blonde. He moaned, rolling over and trying to go back to sleep. Naruto, I have something that'll help you feel a bit better. Shizune said. I'm tired. Naruto, I'll have to inject it if you don't take it orally. Fine. Just, quick. Alright, here you go. It's even got sugar, she said, giving him a cup of reddish liquid. Naruto sat up for a few seconds, drank it and went back to sleep. There, that should work in a few minutes so long as he can keep it down that long. Shizune said. Now I need a bit of sleep, so if you'll excuse me. I'll work on making him something when I can think a bit more clearly. Alright, I'll sleep a bit too. I'm still tired from going through the desert. Tsunade said, getting into bed. Alright, sleep well. You too. Later, Tsunade woke up to Naruto bouncing on his bed. Hey Naruto, you're sure feeling better. Shizune came in last night, and she gave me something and I feel great. He said, in fact I have energy to burn. Great, now you can burn that energy with training. What? I'm not feeling better anymore. Oh no you don't. Tsunade barked, grabbing the back of his shirt and dragging him out of the hotel into the oasis. Alright, here you go, you're going to work on your water walking. And today you're going to perfect it. If I see even one tiny lapse of control. I know. He sighed, beginning to walk across the surface of the water. 3 hours later. Great job, kid. You managed to walk on the water for 3 hours straight. Tsunade said, patting him on the back as they walked back to the hotel. Thanks. So I'm assuming once we have a larger supply of water you're going to start throwing things at me again. Yup, you've got that right. Now let's go see what Shizune made for lunch. Alright, now you're speaking my language. Thought so. Meanwhile, hey Kakashi, Master Jiraiya, I need a bit of help. I asked Sensei, and he's okay with it. I want to have you help me track down Tsunade. Why? Because I'm long overdue for a visit. I don't think that's all. She's adopted a certain someone and I want to check in. Certain someone? As in Sensei's clone, certain someone? Yes. He also happens to be my godson. So I just want to check in, even if it's only for a few. I also have some information for Tsunade and Shizune. You should go ask Sensei about what happened, but your nin dogs are perfect for tracking them down. Alright. I guess. But I'm going to watch him from a distance once we find them. Deal. Shizune sat up as Tsunade knocked on the door. Wake up Shizune, we're going to leave this morning. Okay. Stop being like Naruto. Okay. Just stop trying to break down my door. That's better, Tsunade said as she stopped knocking on the door. Why? Meanwhile, why? Jiraiya whined as they stopped at the edge of the desert. Well, you know, if Naruto was recently kidnapped, then they're probably trying to erase any trail and hide for a while. But I have an idea of where they went. Suna would be too obvious. But there's an oasis a little ways out, that if we hurry we can make it within an hour. I'm not usually in the desert, so lead the way, Jiraiya said. Gladly. Meanwhile, Shizune. Mommy is scaring me. Tsunade, we're leaving. Fine, Tsunade said, standing up. Alright, so let's head out. We were going to Lightning Country, right? Yay. Why are your cheeks red? Naruto asked innocently. No reason. And why are you not able to walk straight? Just because. And, would you stop asking questions? We have to go. Naruto's eyes widened and he shut his mouth, clinging to Shizune's shirt like it was his only lifeline. Meanwhile, there they are. And Tsunade is scaring the crap out of Naruto. And she's drunk. And of course they're leaving. Towards the border of lightning, I think. Should we follow them, or catch them? Kakashi asked. I say we catch them and travel for a while. Then you can go home once your time is up. Besides, I have someone in Lightning Country I have to meet. Meanwhile, Shizune, what's wrong with mommy? You're a little young for that knowledge, Shizune said, sweat dropping. But, why don't you get on my back? Not right now, I can't stop moving. You're defiantly up to full speed again, Shizune said, noting that he was still clutching her shirt for dear life. They stopped as Jiraiya landed in front of them. Jiraiya, what do you want? Tsunade asked, already getting ready to punch him out of the desert. Now Tsunade. No need to be hostile, can't I visit my old teammate once in a while? Besides, I've got to go this way. What's with having an anbu with Ya? Oh he was on leave and decided to come with me for a bit of exercise. You're lying. Look, if you really want to know, it's Kakashi. I see. Well, you two can beat it because I'm busy leaving if you couldn't tell. Shizune, you're really going to let her travel in this state? Jiraiya asked in surprise. We've got to leave. Whoever wants Naruto will probably come here next, so if we don't go they might catch up. Speaking of the kid, he looks a little scared. Jiraiya, if it were any other time we would stay and you and Tsunade could talk, but we really have to go. I get it, but I'm going with you. I've got business in Lightning Country too. And Kakashi is going to stay with us until we hit the border, then he's going back home, and I'll leave to do my business. What, so are you trying to get me to let you travel with us? Tsunade asked. Yes. No. Shizune, Naruto, let's go. She said, leaving into the desert. See coming. Shizune called, grabbing Naruto's hand, shooting Jiraiya an apologetic look, and then going after Tsunade. Naruto looked back for a few seconds before shrugging and going with Shizune. The nerve he has. Tsunade growled once they set up camp for the rest of the day. Mostly since they found a small spring, and decided fresh water was good, and that night was definitely better for travel. And well, if you couldn't guess, Tsunade was still peeved about the earlier encounter with Jiraiya. Tsunade, you're ruining dinner, Shizune said, trying to save the pot of food that Tsunade had knocked in her fit. I don't care, he can probably smell it anyways. I am never going to let him travel with us. Never. 3 days later. Jiraiya, will you stop humming that annoying song? But it never ends. Jiraiya replied, still humming. Jiraiya. Tsunade growled in warning, channeling chakra into her fist. Fine, I'll stop humming it. But Gamatachi won't, as long as I've summoned him he's never stopped humming and or singing it. Jiraiya. If you don't dismiss him I will punch you and your stupid toad out of the desert. Please listen, she's getting angry. Naruto pleaded. Fine. Gamatachi, you'd better go. Okay, he said and poofed out of existence. There. Oh my gosh. Yes. The border. Bye, Jiraiya, she said, then all three were gone with a poof of smoke. I didn't even get to say goodbye. I had to get back to the village. See you another time, Kakashi said, then he was gone too. Everyone left me. I think I'm starting to have some abandonment issues, oh crap. I didn't get to talk to them about them. Once again Naruto was amazed by how fast Shizune could set up camp. Hey mom. Do you really think we should leave that guy out there? I mean, from your description his sense of direction is worse than great-grandpa Hashirama and great-uncle Tobirama's together. I don't really care. He's too annoying to deal with anymore. Tsunade said stubbornly. You know, we need to go clothes shopping again. No way. You aren't dragging me into any clothing store alive. He yelled defiantly. Are you so sure? Why, yes. He stammered as his mother's temper got hotter. Well then. Shizune, give me the rope. What? What rope? The rope in your hand, behind your back. She said. Oh, that rope. Shizune said. Yay, that rope. H here. She said, giving Naruto an apologetic look. 3 hours, 18 stores, 981 curses later. From all three sides. And Naruto had an entirely new wardrobe. And the only thing he had managed to get that was orange was an orange vest like his old one for being good for the last half of it. Alright, I think I'll have to be satisfied. For now. You do realize that until you reach your full height we're going to be shopping pretty often. Tsunade said. The torture. He said overdramatically. Ah, come on, and stop making a scene. Tsunade said, grabbing the back of his vest and picking him up. Then they walked away. Or rather, she walked away with him. And Shizune had no choice but to follow. Same thing. Almost. When they got back to camp a surprise was waiting for them. Tsunade. Before you leave again, I came to visit you for a reason. I have some information you could probably use. Jiraiya said. Like what? It's about Naruto. Now that caught her attention. She gritted her teeth for a moment thinking but decided to go with him to talk. They walked out into the forest for a few minutes and did a few jutsu so no prying ears could hear. Fine, what information do you have? Well, you know how someone hired people to kidnap him. Hey, I don't think I ever mentioned anything about the hired part. With the info I have, and what Sensei told me, I was able to put the pieces together. Trust me, it's pretty simple. What is? There's an organization, it's called the Akatsuki, they're after the tailed beasts, for what reason I don't know, how they plan to unseal them without loosing them, I still working on figuring that out. But I'm pretty sure they're the ones who hired those ninja, and if you had taken too much more time than however long you took to get him back they would have gotten him. I'm just warning you. They are relentless and will stop at nothing to get him and all the other Jinchuriki, and then their plan, whatever it happens to be, will take place. And the worst part is that if the 9 tails is extracted from him, he won't survive it. Also, one more thing I pick up on. There's a possibility that Orochimaru might be involved with the Akatsuki. I'm not sure, but it's possible. What? But, she swore once, breaking a nearby boulder in an effort not to down the whole forest. Just the name, Orochimaru, made her blood boil. How much she hated him was rooted so deeply, that if she ever got her hands on him, there would probably be nothing left when she was done. Now, calm down just a bit. If you destroy the forest, you might get in just a little bit of trouble. For once I'm going to listen to you. Well, that's a first. Anyways, I have to be somewhere pretty soon, so I've got to go. I'll send you anything new I find out about the Akatsuki, by Toad. Alright, thank you, Tsunade said, sounding truly sincere. Jiraiya smiled. No problem. So does this mean, you're thankful enough to let me take you on Ao? You were doing okay before. Oh well, get out of here before I hit you harder, she said. He slinked away and the woman began going back to camp, but suddenly she stopped, her ninja senses telling her to do so. And indeed she had stopped just in time for a large pig to charge past, and a team of genin with their sensei, and 3 more high-level junin after it. One of them stopped seeing her, and left the others to keep going. He looked at her warily, and finally after a minute got to his point of stopping. It's pretty obvious you aren't from Lightning Country, so I need your name, passport, and to know if you have anyone else traveling with you. Of course, Tsunade agreed. She was used to this. Every country was tight on security. You had say your name, and wave some fancy papers in their faces. Then do the same for anyone else you're with. Luckily she had just gotten Naruto's passport. It had only taken 5.5 months. She led him back to camp, realizing that he must be a newbie if he didn't recognize her. Once to camp she ignored the confused look Naruto had, and didn't bother to bug Shizune, who didn't even turn her head at the shinobi with the tedious task of finding the passports. Finally, after 10 minutes of rummaging through the contents of a scroll, she turned around to find Naruto and the shinobi talking. They were in fact enjoying talking, the shinobi seeming slightly relaxed as he stood against a tree, and answering all of Naruto's innocent yet annoying questions. Here you go. All settled, it's in date, and for all 3 of us, Shizune Kato my niece, Naruto Senju my son, and myself, Tsunade Senju. Alright, so I looked it up. I don't actually know if Shizune's last name is actually Kato, but that was the last name of her uncle, Dan, also Tsunade's lover, so that brings to my second point. I think Tsunade would already think of Shizune as her niece, but I'm not sure, so I'm going with her taking Shizune as her niece. Alright, you all check out. From Konoha. Quite a long way, isn't it? We like to travel. Tanbi, look out. One of the ninja from earlier cried out as the pig from earlier charged him. But as suddenly as she had called, it stopped, and turned towards Naruto. For some reason it found it didn't like him and wanted him terminated. Naruto. Tsunade yelled, already on the move. She was nearly a flash as she got there, grabbed the 7-year-old, and was gone in as much time as it took for her to get started moving. She reappeared behind the pig, taking the rope from shopping and tying the pig to a tree. There. That should hold it there. It's a she, and her name is Layla. A young woman said, dropping into the clearing. She looked like a kunoichi who didn't like the normal garb for lightning shinobi, as she was dressed in a mini skirt over short shorts and a shirt. But spoke with the authority and the composure of a princess. Miss Rita, Layla, you have to stop this right now. It's not nice to charge people, especially people you don't know. The pig put her snout down and did something akin to a whine. And to you, I'm very sorry she attacked you. But can I possibly make it up to you with a piglet? Me? Naruto stuttered. Yes, you. She just had a litter of piglets and had rejected the smallest here. I've been taking care of her, but I think legendary healer, Tsunade of the Sannin and her companions, can do a better job than I. Wow. Thank you. You're welcome. So what are you going to name her? I dunno. Rita stepped up to Tsunade and handed her an envelope. Well, we should leave. I wouldn't mind you visiting me sometime. My father is the daimyo, So just show this to the gate guards and they'll let you in. Thank you, Tsunade said as the other two tried to figure out a name. How about Tauntaun? Shizune asked. Tauntaun? I don't know, it just came to me. Well, I think it somehow fits. Tsunade said. I agree. So then, Tauntaun it is. 3.5 years later. Alright kid, I think you're ready. Really? Really? Yup. Cool. What is all this ruckus about? Shizune asked drooping as she slowly dragged herself up once again. They were in the desert, working towards Suna. They made a trip there every 6 months so Shizune could make medicines that Naruto could actually have without having an allergic reaction. I get to take the test to see if I'm ready to be a genin yet. Oh, I remember Tsunade muttering about that. She said, well, since it's nothing urgent, I'm going to go back to sleep. She said, but it's only 6:30 in the morning. Naruto said, too early, still dark, not morning, good night. Wow, she's not much of a morning person is she? After you waking her up early for 4 years. No, not at all. So are we going to do the test? Yay, Tsunade said and pulled out flashcards. He would have to answer as many as possible in 10 minutes. And then she would count out how many he got wrong, and take a point off for everyone he got wrong. 15 minutes later, he had made it through the stack with minimal errors, only missing 20 out of about 250. All in all, he could proudly say he passed the knowledge test with a score Tsunade named as good. Next was chakra control. He passed that with flying colors, his dry clothes proof of that as Shizune finally took enough time to drag herself out of bed and watch. She had decided the day before when they decided to stay in one place for a day she would sleep and catch up on it. Next was the healing test. He passed that one with flying colors as well. Then he had to prove how good he was at weapons. He was good. After that she had him do a physical test, passing it with a very good. It would have been excellent, but he was still too skinny for her to deem that. Next was jutsu. She had decided it could use some improvement, but he was doing better than most genin would, since he knew 4 low level, and 1 original technique in progress. But it was tricky so he was making very slow progress on it. Later in the evening, during dinner. Alright, I've thought about it, and you pass. I'm going to request a forehead protector for you, and then you can request missions. Congratulations. Yay, congratulations, Shizune said, as Tsunade sent Hitari out with the request. And since you've stopped wearing so much orange, you'll be able to do recon eventually. Probably once you're a high-level chunin, at the worst. Great. The next morning. It looks great on you. Yay, but just don't let it go to your head, you're still only a genin. Yay, I know. But I'm one step closer to my dream. 'Cause one day, I am gonna be Hokage. Naruto. Before we get going come here. Tsunade said, fingering the necklace she wore. Yay? I want you to have this. What? I want you to have it. I have a feeling it'll help you. Really? I'm not still sleeping? No, you aren't still sleeping. So you're giving me your most prized possession? Yes, but on one condition. What is that? Just don't die. I don't know what I would do if I lost you. You and Shizune are all that keeps me from losing it. If I lost even one of you I would probably just become a cranky old witch. Heh, don't worry, it takes a lot to kill me. And besides, I think everyone is too afraid to even try to hurt me. 'Cause you're known so well, for painful reasons. And I taught you the same stuff. You're making yourself pretty well known for the same reason, kid. Be careful though, people like to try and challenge strong opponents. Just don't get into anything you don't think you can win. Of course, if you're sure from the first second you'll win, go for it. Tsunade, Shizune said in a reprimanding tone. I'm glad I have permission. Naruto said gleefully. Hey Mr. Genin, get up. Tsunade said, flicking him through his tent. He only rolled over, still muttering, I'm finally a genin, at this rate I'll be Hokage soon, in his sleep. Get up now. What's going on? I thought you might want to know that sensei wants you to do a mission. And it's just the perfect mission for you to start with. It's a low C rank, a genin team at the very worst. Shizune and I won't be too far away, so if anything really big does happen, we can help you. He's going to be sending a Junin to go with you. It'll take about a week, and you'll be escorting a VIP from the village gates to the land of lightning. I think you'll be pretty happy about this arrangement, she said, grinning. Who am I escorting? He asked. Half of the camp packed up, due to the fact that Shizune had been teaching him the most efficient way to pack. You'll find out when you get there. One day later, Asuma stood by the gates with the lightning daimyo's daughter. Where is that kid? He groaned. He knew he was supposed to have a comrade show up from outside the village to help him. He had been told a 12-year-old with blonde hair and blue eyes. He must be one of the newly passed genin, he thought, eyes turned back towards the path. I wonder what genin is so great that they could instantly be put on guard duty, with only a junin to assist no less. Rita shifted, pulling out a kunai and a rough piece of metal. 10 minutes later his ninja senses went into overdrive as someone dropped down behind him. He was reaching for his kunai pouch when a familiar voice sounded behind him. The voice of a child he had thought of as a little brother. Wow, Asuma, you're Junin now, cool. Naruto, the one and only. Hey, you're looking a little pale, are you sick or something? I mean, if you are. No, I'm fine, I just didn't expect to see you. No telling anyone else though, okay? I'll probably show up for the exams in a few months, and if anyone happens to have a teammate that doesn't show for it I'll fill in. The old man and I already talked it over. That's why I'm so late. I see, Asuma said, helping their new charge up and getting ready to head out. Naruto walked up behind them and looked at Rita's face, which had changed significantly in the past 2 years since he'd last visited her. But about a second later his face lit up in recognition and he grinned. Rita, great to see you. How long's it been? 2 years, he asked. As they started walking, him going backwards so Rita could talk with him easily. Hey, about. Maybe a little longer. You two know each other? Yay, they answered in unison, launching into an explanation of how they met, and some of the best pranks and such that Naruto had pulled so far. The next week passed much faster than Naruto, or Rita would have wanted. Before they knew it they were saying goodbye, but she promised to see him during the exams since she was in fact a ninja, and if she'd had it her way would have gone home on her own. It was only on her father's request that she'd asked for an escort. Around the time he and Asuma were halfway to their split-up point, to go their own ways, Tsunade and Shizune stepped in. Tsunade was waiting in their current campsite, and had sent Shizune to get them. I made some dinner if either of you are hungry, she said. Naruto was ecstatic, and Asuma didn't really mind the idea. Alright, they agreed, heading after Shizune as she babbled on to Asuma. Naruto walked in front of them grinning wickedly. I will make them a couple if it's the last thing I do. And it probably will be. But I won't die alone, he whispered quietly to himself. They broke through some brush and found Tsunade attempting to put up some tents. Gah, this is impossible, she yelled, snapping all 5 steel poles of the tent like they were one toothpick. Tsunade? Asuma stuttered. So Asuma, it's been a while hasn't it? Tsunade said. You two know each other? Naruto and Shizune asked. Well, he's Sensei's brat, and considering how many times I had to kick Sensei out the door to get moving for the day, I know him pretty well. He was usually the one who betrayed Sensei's position. Everyone else just avoided the conflict. I've still got to give him an earful sometime. I'll take those now, Shizune said, taking the halved tent poles from Tsunade's grip and having Naruto use a fire jutsu to help her weld the poles back together again, while Asuma and Tsunade talked, the latter using Shizune's simple instructions to finish the soup. The next morning, up. No, when I say get up, I mean get up, she yelled, grabbing the front of his nightshirt and ripping him from his sleeping bag. Hey, now I'm cold, Naruto said, squirming. Asuma was warily avoiding him as he smartly watched from the fire that had been strategically lit about 20 feet away. They sure argue a lot, he said. Hey, let go of me. Ouch, you little brat. Shizune, save me. Sorry Naruto, but I'm smart enough to stay out of this. Traitor, he screamed, pointing an accusing finger at the raven-haired woman as she ignored the scuffle behind her, instead focusing on the food she was making for breakfast. Yes, I'm a traitor, but I'm a smart traitor. Naruto was angry but had to move as Tsunade started a spar, finally when it got out of hand, as in dust spewing in giant mushroom clouds able to be seen from miles away. Shizune decided enough was enough. Alright, that's it, she said, anger filling her features as she used a genjutsu to hide the dust. We're going to be found by a bunch of brokers if you two don't settle down. And look at this, she said, pointing to the 10-foot deep crater they were standing in. You two have taken it far enough. And I mean it. Stop it this instant or else I'll make you stop. Asuma, Naruto, and Tsunade literally gawked at her for her bold demand. Alright, fine Shizune, we'll stop so long as you agree to lower Naruto's age limit you're so set on. But Tsunade, no way in heck are you getting me near that stuff. Naruto said defiantly. Says you, Tsunade said smugly. What are you even bickering about? None of your business. They all shouted, turning behind them for a split second. Alright, fine, but Naruto and I have got to go and report to the Hokage before you can continue, he said, motioning for Naruto to get up and go with him. Alright, let's go. I haven't seen the old man in a while anyways, Naruto said, walking out of the clearing with Asuma and leaving Tsunade and Shizune to fix the campground. For the next couple months Naruto kept himself busy with missions ranging from easy and quick D ranks to 3-week-long A ranks. It was interesting and strange all at the same time. He was often away from his mother and Shizune, but he was not only making money, but making a path to the Chunin exams that were rapidly approaching. At least he could take Taunton with him. When he found out that Team 7 was missing a member and that he'd joined them, he was fine with it. His only condition was that they didn't hold him back so long as he did well. But when he found out who Team 7 consisted of, well, he was a little less excited to participate. And by the time they actually came around, he was decidedly going to give them all one heck of a mystery. Oh, my gosh, Naruto? Shikamaru asked, literally gawking at the blonde. Hiya Shikamaru, Choji, Kiba. So dead last returns after 6 years, huh? Sasuke said. I'm not dead last anymore, Sasuke. But you'll learn that soon enough. Anyways, you and Sakura are gonna be stuck with me for a while since someone, the old man most likely, decided to torture me with you too. The only condition is that you can't hold me back. Yay, right. You're only being your old self, saying things that'll never happen. You wanna bet? Sure, why not? Alright. Then if I prove you wrong you have to face mom, and if you come out alive I will be very surprised. Wait, so we're actually doing a real bet? You scared? No, it's just you seem so comfortable with it. I cleaned out, mom, and over half the casinos on the continent, therefore paying off mom's debits and still having enough for hotels and food. I couldn't get Shizune to play with me though, otherwise she would probably be cleaned out too. I'm officially banned from casinos, and anyone dumb enough to let me in gets fired the next morning. Now I know who adopted you. Shikamaru groaned. Sasuke. I'm going to have the Hokage start planning your funeral. Naruto. I'm sure is at least high Chunin to low Junin level by now. And probably really good at poisons, antidotes, and medical stuff in general. Wah, Naruto chuckled, an unearthly chuckle. Tsunade's, you're such a sucker, I can't even say so to your face, gleam in his eye. Shikamaru. Don't tell him. If nothing else I can knock him out and drag him to wherever mom ends up being at that time. But I would rather him come cooperatively. I am much less inclined to make this bet. No going back, Sasuke. That's the very first thing I learned about betting. Once the chips are down, no taking them back. So what will happen if you win? If I win, you have to admit you're never going to become Hokage, and that I was right. So telling a lie is all you have? I sort of expected something a bit worse. Like, he stopped short, unable to say as his face turned pink, and those images came to the front of his mind. Well, spit it out, Sasuke demanded. And nothing. I've just decided to kill a certain toad sage whenever I next see him. 'Cause even now my mind is scarred because of him. Anyways, I think we should move to the corner since we've completely grabbed the attention of every other genin here, he said, already walking away with his hands behind his head. Suddenly he stopped about a second before a spike of sand flew past him. He turned his head uninterestedly towards a red-headed boy. I want your name. And why should I give it? You're interesting. You travel through my village often, and I have been able to sense something we have in common. So that's why you were always alone, huh? Well, in that case, my name is Naruto Senju. I look forward to fighting you later on, Naruto Senju, because I will fight you. You'll be in for a tough fight, Gaara. The redhead looked slightly taken back. How do you know my name? He hissed, but Naruto had already ducked under the spike, and was in the corner, and only grinned at him as the others timidly walked across the room. Senju, I know who adopted you, Ino said suddenly. You do, huh? Well, playing around a bit was fun while it lasted. Go ahead, tell them. Tsunade Senju, of the legendary Sannin. Everyone who didn't know it before looked at him in shock. Kiba even dropped Akamaru. Kiba, be more careful. Akamaru could break a leg, or possibly even some ribs, you know. When did you become a dog expert? Since mom realized one day I would come back to village and wanted me to be prepared for pretty much anything. Seriously, I had to heal a fish, walk on water, and dodge paper bombs all at the same time, and if I did it wrong she made me do almost 700 flashcards. Then do the fish, water and bombs again. Honestly, having her a couple hundred miles away for several weeks is going to be nice. They sweat dropped. But I do see your reasoning. So Tsunade of the Sannin really adopted you? Sakura asked. Yes, she even spent a lot of time doing all the paperwork that came with adoption. Just now they noticed that he was holding Tonton. You have a pig on your lap, Choji said, staring. She's not for eating, Choji. I wouldn't think of it. So who is she? Hinata asked. Tonton, we went to the Land of Lightning a few years ago and the daimyo's daughter was nice enough to let us have her. I've been training her ever since, though she usually just sleeps. You went to Lightning Country? Shino asked. You met the daimyo's daughter? Shikamaru asked. How the heck do you even have permission to go out of Fire Country? Kiba asked. And you've obviously been to Suna. Ino added. Look, yes, we went to the Land of Lightning. Yes, we met the daimyo's daughter when Tonton's mother tried to kill me and mom tied her to a tree. The old man gave us all permission to leave the country. And not only that, but we can go pretty much anywhere. Yes, we've been to Suna numerous times since Shizune can find a lot of useful herbs there. So how long are you staying? Kiba asked. Only for the exam, then I leave again. By any chance I'll be Chunin and able to get out of annoying C ranks, and easy B and A's. You do missions? Yay! I do anything that's within 10 miles of where I am at the time. The old man has a list of where we'll be at certain times, and knows if we change plans. Ah, interesting. So where are you staying for the exams? Ah, a tent I'll probably set up later. I actually was in a bit of a rush to get here because the old man kept me in his office for so long. Kiba sat against the wall beside Naruto. Actually, if you like you can stay at my house. Sure, why not, thanks Kiba. The proctor suddenly appeared at the bottom of the classroom. Alright brats. I hope you're ready because you're in for one heck of a challenge. Whoa, is that Ibiki? I remember pranking him a lot. I wonder if he'll still have a grudge for the neon colors I splashed on his office walls. Oh well, he can't be worse than mom. She's subconsciously trying to kill me for about a week every month. And Shizune won't usually help me. Kiba and Shikamaru gave him sympathetic looks. Ibiki stood there and scanned the genin, but his eyes stopped on a certain one. It's that brat. He got a full breath and barked out his next instructions. Everyone get into a line. You will all retrieve a number from up here. Find that seat and then take it. Everyone except you, he said, pointing menacingly at Naruto. He still had to get him back for the neon pink and orange. Huh? Me? Yes, you. You aren't allowed to kick me out. No, I'm not kicking you out. You're going to sit at that desk. Ibiki said, pointing behind him. Fine, Naruto said, plopping into the seat and putting his feet up on the desk. You will be taking the written exams. As you can all see, there are a number of proctors, and should they find any hint that you're cheating, then you will be called on it. If you are called out 3 times, will you get your feet off of there? If you're called out 3 times, then you will be kicked out of the exam. You'll start with a perfect score of 10. If you get answers wrong, you lose points, and your entire team has to pass the exam. You start now. Ibiki turned around and found his personal charge already filling it out with all the right answers. He grinned at Ibiki as he began on number 2. Well, by the time he was done with the test, Ibiki was nearly dumbfounded. Naruto had gotten every question right immediately, and not only that, but he finished in less than 10 minutes. This couldn't be possible. Actually, it wasn't possible. He put in the answers and then the way he got them. So then he was cheating. But how? Well, he had been passed at that point. He obviously had a sneaky way of gathering information. Naruto almost grinned as he noticed the proctor pass him. The internal conflict in his eyes was enough to say that he'd done so. 1 part down, 2 to go. He just had to survive his team somehow. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.